And she has 3 weeks till today. Countdown begins today until she really can make those inroads until it's election day. But I do want to move down the ballot just a little bit and talk about the Senate race, because while we see the presidential race in a dead heat, the Democrat Congresswoman Alyssa Slotkin has 3 points above her Republican challenger, former Congressman Mike Rogers. Talk to us about that race.
Yeah, it's also very close, but Slotkin does have the advantage here. Um, it's interesting. Both of these candidates are not fully defined to the Michigan electorate. I think 40% of Michigan voters either don't know or don't have an opinion of Mike Rogers. I think 34%, same thing for Alyssa Slotkin. And so as we get closer to the election, it's up to these campaigns to really sort of close the deal and say, here's who I am, why you should vote for me or why you shouldn't vote for my opponent. Um, but Slotkin definitely has the advantage. So to the extent she is known, she's got a fairly positive image in the state versus Mike Rogers, who is his image is underwater. And so she has an advantage. More people like her, fewer people like Mike Rogers. And she is, running essentially ahead of Harris in the state. It's a very small number of people, but there are a group of people who are voting Trump and Slotkin, if you can believe it.
And that's a really interesting point. So, based on the numbers, based on what you're seeing, is there any world in which Slotkin running ahead of Rogers will help Harris, or will those voters still go Trump?
It's unusual for, in this case, the Senate race would be a down ballot race to the presidential race. It's unusual that will carry above the top of the ticket. So I'm doubting that. One of the things we look at in this survey, and as we analyze polls close to the election, motivated to vote. So all these voters in our poll are likely voters. They say they at least have a 50-50 chance to vote. But when we say, on a scale of 0 to 10, how motivated are you? We look at people who say 10 out of 10. That's most voters. Among those 10 out of 10, we see Trump has a 2-point lead. We have Slotkin having a 2-point lead. And so I think it sort of like forecasts, at the end of the day, who's going to actually turn out and vote. Trump and Slotkin both seem to have the advantage to a very small extent among those highly motivated voters.
You and I have been talking about these key battleground states that are really going to make this election for months now, and this is one of those blue wall states. Is this consistent with what you're seeing in the other blue wall states, like Wisconsin, like Pennsylvania?
Yeah, I mean, all of these states are just razor thin margins, and this one is dead even. But I mean, we're talking, most of these polls that we're looking at, our poll included, have margins of error that are, 3-4% plus or minus. So yeah, they are extremely close. I don't think anyone can rightfully predict how these races are going to turn out yet. And I'm not sure we're going to know on election night, given how close some of these polls are, that, absentee ballots and counting the mail-in vote, I think may decide a lot of these races in the, sort of must-win blue wall states.